Joining us live from just outside Boston, Massachusetts is Richard Parker. He's an author, economist, and professor at Harvard University. Want to welcome you to the broadcast, and thanks so much for joining us. Everyone, of course, focused on Syria. Folks say that's going to dominate the meetings. But once you sweep that away, what do you see as the key issues that need to be addressed on the economic front?
Growth, growth, and growth. The issues are that we are on the 5th anniversary this month of the Lehman collapse, and we are by no means clear of the recession that was induced as a consequence. And what the debate is about is essentially about how to recover growth, how to stabilize growth, how to generate growth across multiple continents. The major players have disagreements about how to do that. The United States and the Federal Reserve have been following a stimulative path with this quantitative easing approach. The Europeans have been preoccupied with austerity and achieving fiscal balance. Probably more important this month in terms of the global economy are the outcomes of the German elections, which are forthcoming. It looks likely that Mrs. Merkel will be reelected, and we may see some easing as a consequence of austerity in Germany and of Europe in general if she is successfully reelected. Abenomics is seemingly moving ahead. And then the great question marks are in the third world, the developing world. How is India going to fare? What's going on in Indonesia? Can China actually begin to generate domestic growth of the sort that will substitute for what has been an export-led miracle for the last 2 decades?
A lot to tackle in just 2 days. One analyst suggested that President Putin might use this G20 summit to really focus on the BRICS countries at the expense of Europe and the U.S. Do you think that's likely?
Well, I mean, look, Putin is conducting a foreign policy exercise designed to restore a great power respect for Russia. And he feels more than anything in this Syria case, but previously in Libya and elsewhere, that the United States and Europeans have been treating him as a second-rate power. And so he's determined to tweak the West as often as possible. He's looking for allies in China and India and Brazil. He hasn't got stable allies in the Chinese or the Indians or the Brazilians, but you know it's a path that he's going to pursue for domestic political and for foreign policy power reasons.
Well, you know, you mentioned that's a card he can play, but he has to play with the other members of BRICS. Are they likely to take the bait?
I don't think that they are. I mean, China is not in any way inclined to be cooperative with the Russians simply for the rewards of being cooperative. There's a long-term strategy of developing closer relationships that would allow the transfer of enormous quantities of Siberian commodities to the Chinese economy in exchange for Chinese goods flowing into the Russian consumer economy. But, you know, that's been talked about now for 20 years. I was active during the Perestroika period working for the U.S. Senate, traveling through the old Soviet Union as it was collapsing and Russia as it was emerging. And this talk of a tilt toward Beijing is still much more theoretical than the tilt that Washington is in fact making toward Beijing and away from Europe.
Now, Professor Parker, we've got about a minute left. There's this report out today from Reuters that the Federal Reserve stimulus might impact emerging markets. What's your feeling about that, the cutback?
Well, it's going to, yeah, no, I understand what the claim is, and it probably will because markets remain nervous. And to the degree that you're talking about hot money, you're talking about financial money that can move quickly, I think that's right. I think that the longer-term commodity investments and gradual investment in third world and particularly African industrialization will go forward and won't be driven entirely by Fed policy, but a lot of liquid assets are going to, in fact, move toward the U.S. and out of emerging markets if the Fed alters policy significantly enough to force up U.S. rates.
Professor Parker, thank you so much for your time. Certainly appreciate it.